All right, so Doom Gauntlet on a Sampire with a Bard support character in Ultima Online. So if you've been playing for a while, maybe you used to run Doom back in the day. It used to be pretty easy to do it solo on either a Sampire or a couple mages. It was pretty straightforward. With the changes recently, there are some new tactics and new things you kind of have to keep in mind. For me, it's much easier to run it with a second character on a second account, on a second computer. So I'll go into the stats of that character in a second, but my Sampire is basically standard build. I'm going to want resist spells as much as you can get. For gear, I'm going to carry in an Undead Slayer, Demon Slayer, and some sort of Slayer talisman. So you either need the Undead Conjurer's Trinket or a cameo, or if you're lucky enough to have a Demon cameo, that would be good as well, because you can stack up the damages or you can cross the different types. So they're all either undead or demon in the Gauntlet. With the exception of the new changes they made to Fleshrenderer, make it a little more difficult. It doesn't have a Slayer vulnerability, and there's a certain tactic you have to kind of use. So before I get into it, there are a few things you want to do on your Bard or your companion. If it's another player you're playing with, just kind of make sure they do some of these things. Certain rooms and during the Dark Father fight, you're going to want to have, a quick mass cure or greater heal from your support character. So on your second computer and second account, make sure that you have macros that are set up to target your character specifically. With this setup, I'm going to be using the full Bard, and so there is definitely the Peacemake masteries in play. So 30% damage reduction, 30% damage increase, and some pretty decent regens. So on a 4x 120, these are the max buffs you can get. Combined, stacked with my Swampy, I'm taking 50% damage reduction, or just about. So another useful key or tactic to use during these fights is to make sure that your Bard has like an area Peacemake set up. So I have a key on my second computer where I just simply hit it and it does an area Peacemake, or Peacemakes himself. Alright, so let's get into it. Alright, so first room is the Darknight Creeper. This is vulnerable to undead, so make sure you're equipped with your handy dandy undead axe and double damage with my undead slayer tally. Bard has buffs up, so my tactic on all these rooms, I'll usually put the Bard in and I'll position him first, and then I'll try to lead them one at a time to the Bard. So here we go. So what you want to do is make sure you get the honor in on these guys. They can poison quite a bit. And once you honor, you just lead them up. Get into buff range. And I quickly got the Discord in on my Bard. If you're only dealing with one, then don't even bother with curing. Alright, easy peasy. Okay, so the next room is the Fleshrenderers. They have no Slayer vulnerability, so I'm going to switch to a weapon that just has hit lower defense and hit lightning. You can use either of the weapons you brought with you, either undead or demon, just as long as it's got some good leeches and some hit stam leech, and hit lightning is nice. So if you've done this in the past, they've buffed up the Fleshrenderers quite a bit. Has a little bit different AI now. It will dismount you quite a bit, of course, still. But now it has a period of invulnerability when you can't hit it and it can still hit you. Immediately after that period of invulnerability, it will hit you for between 30 and 50 or 60 points and then also poison you. So it can be kind of dangerous. You got to be able to deal with the poison. In this scenario, what I'm going to do is same tactic. I'm going to bring my bard in first and park him by the wall and try my very best to only bring one of them up at a time if there are more than one. Fighting 2 Fleshrenderers can be done, but it is very stressful and you're just not going to have a good time. The other thing is I'm going to also, since I'm just going to be dismounted all the time, I'm going to just leave my Swampy out here and go in with on foot. So here we go. Make sure my mass cure macro is good to go. All right. This is a tricky part. You just take it very slow until you see at least one. Get the honor in and lead them up to the bard. Then you can cast enemy of 1. Just try to get on the heal as quickly as possible. I want to switch to a GM weapon on your bard for these guys. So see, 65 points and lethal poison all in one hit. So you gotta be prepared for that. Now, if he goes away, just hang out for a minute because sometimes, see, he'll come right back. I wasn't able to get a Discord on him, but... Well, we only got one, so there you go. That's Fleshrenderer. Now, if you do have two, it's very important that you just, like I said, when you go into the room, just go in very slowly and kind of just try to. I mean, it doesn't always work. Sometimes they're right next to each other, but just try to get one at a time and bring them up to your bard, and don't run around in the rest of the room. The last thing you want is two Fleshrenderers on you at the same time, especially if you're just a Dexer. All right, guys, on to the next. All right, the next room is the Impalers. This is pretty straightforward. Same tactic. Put the bard in first. Bring them one at a time towards the bard, if there are more than one. So this is Demon Slayer. So I'm going to put on my Demon Slayer along with my Conjurer's Trinket, and here we go. Kind of scope out to see if there are two. Try to bring this one up. Hopefully the other one can get me. There we go. Finally got it discorded. Late. All these bosses are 160 bard skill, so if you can get one off, great. It can be challenging to play on two computers at once. My suggestion is to just try to isolate the important parts on your second character and keep the laptop right next to you where you keep your mouse. Of course. There we go. That was Impaler. Okay, next room is the Shadow Knights. They're undead, so I'm switching to my undead weapon and undead tally. Same tactic. Bring in the bard first, kind of hide them next to the wall, and then try to bring them one over at a time. The only thing with these is sometimes they kind of teleport or shadow strike. Some of these bosses also do cast like a wither, so you want to keep your bard far enough away so it's not getting targeted. Other than that, it's pretty easy. Here we go. They'll kind of hide and stealth around for a little bit. There we go. Make sure you get the honor in. There's a second one. When I'm lucky. Oh, here we go. We'll try to take both of them. Notice these are not fire damage resistant, so you have to consecrate. Where'd the other one go? Follow me. See, I'm just in the range of the bard buffs, but just out of the range of his wither on my bard. So it's kind of a... takes practice getting them positioned. So whether your support character is a tamer or a mage, just make sure they kind of stay outside of that buffer. Alright, there you go. Okay, so the last room before the Dark Father is the Abysmal Horror. They're demon, so I'm going to be using my Demon Slayer, and I don't have a demon cameo, so I'm just going to keep the Undead Slayer on. It's not really giving me any bonus, but it is my damage increase for this room. So it can hit you pretty heavy with the Blood Oath, so you want to make sure you're using resist. Same tactic pretty much, except you really don't want to fight too many of these at once if they're not already discorded. You do hit them hard, but they can hit you really hard in one hit. So I have 124 hit points. Hopefully I don't need it on this. Here we go. Alright. There are two, so I really only want to fight one at a time. I lucked out. You're going to be tempted to go up where they are because they're slow, but just trust me, lead them down, try to fight one at a time. Got him discarded, so shouldn't be a problem. Again, these are not fire resistant, so you need to make sure you do consecrate or you're gonna get hit. If I were smart, I'd make a weapon just for each room, but I'll mix back and forth between either cast and consecrate to get that elemental type or not if I know that its lowest resist is what I'm using. I'll move my bard up here. Stealable candles if you bring a thief in with you. Yeah, not good. There we go. That's what I mean about consecrate. If you don't consecrate or you're not doing the right type with him, you're not doing enough damage and he will take you down. Got the Discord in. He probably just has really high fire resist. The wrong weapon for him. Alright, there we go. All right, so here we are on to Dark Fathers. So if you went through all the rooms, just take a breather. Before you run into the middle of this room, just keep in mind that Dark Fathers have changed. It's not your grandfather's Dark Father, so to speak. So if there are more than one, and there usually is, you will need to take a certain tactic where you do lead them away, but they now snap back to the middle. So this can be problematic in a couple ways. One, I'm going to want to keep that Dark Father that I'm fighting always. I only want to fight one at a time, first of all. And secondly, I want to keep him in kind of range so that he stays discorded if I get him discorded with my bard. I don't want to have to keep trying that over and over. Once he's discorded, you kind of want to keep him coming to the same place. So before we get into this, there's a couple tactics. I use this hallway, the one you come out of. I can pretty much do the whole fight. Even if there's multiple Dark Fathers, I just use the same area. You can move, but just keep in mind that you want to make sure that things are safe. So the tactic is going to be, I'm going to kind of put my bard here in the corner. I use the edge of this wall as kind of, I don't want to get anything back here. So this, if you're in a big group, try to keep people back here, keep the mob out of here. A couple tactics that I'm going to use here, I'm going to use the bard a lot. So when I'm sitting there fighting Dark Father, you want to use Whirlwind a lot so that you keep the mobs on you. I've done this in other videos, but there is a setting that you want to make sure you're using in EC called Always Attack. And I won't go into too much detail, but basically anytime you target anything, it's like attacking them. So I use this in conjunction with the scroll wheel, mouse up and mouse down, to target last and target next. Now, the reason why this is important is that I want to get aggro as much as possible. I don't want them fighting my bard. I'm not really paying attention to my bard all that much, and he's in stone form, so he's got a lot of resistance, but I don't want to lose his buffs. So my tactic will be, once a major spawn like the named liches or the blood elementals pops up, I'm going to invis and cast area piece on him. And as soon as I do that, I scroll my mouse wheel to try to get all the mobs on me as quickly as possible so that I can start whirlwinding them, and then I can get them off my bard. If you do it right, it's a little bit of a grind, but it does work. Obviously, hopefully you've got a couple Dexters doing this and you team up. You're going to want to stay in one area. You don't want to really run around. The new Dark Father AI will target you if you're doing damage on him. He will teleport you to him. So if you're a mage or an archer, actually, if you're an archer, just don't come to Doom. That's bottom line. You're going to have a really bad time in this room. And at the very least, you're going to be moving him around so everyone else is having a hard time. If you're a tamer, which is it does work, the big thing you want to do is you don't want your pet to follow him into the middle of the room if you're fighting multiple Dark Fathers. So what will happen is the other Dark Father will target your pet and you'll bring two of them up. This is a little bit hit or miss. You never know what you're going to get with this. It is somewhat random. So just take your time and we're going to see what we've got here. So all right, so real quick, just make sure my macros are, my keys on my other computer are doing what they need to do. I have invis, I have heal, and I have area piece. All right. There are two, and they're right next to each other, so this will be a little challenging. Hopefully it'll work out. Gregorius. Here we go. Got him. So I'm going to keep him right about here. Now, the trick is I'm going to want to get him discorded as soon as possible. Alright. Now that he's discorded, I can just kind of stay here. One thing with Paragon AI I've noticed is that if you might hear me keep clicking. Because if you keep clicking, it seems to stop him from retargeting. Also notice that I'm not using enemy of one. Some people might. So you see, area pieced, and then got him off. Now notice that I just stayed here. I didn't chase the Dark Father, I just waited right here. Because I don't really want to go into the middle of the room and get that other Dark Father interested in this area. Since he's coming back to me, he stays in Discord, which is handy. Another macro that's helpful here is, if you're a Chivalry user, is Dispel Evil. So I have it on like a quick key, and whenever I see a Revenant, I train myself to cast Dispel Evil. They do kind of help sometimes, but they're more annoying than anything. So if you're in a group, you're a Sampire, and you've got other support people, your role is really to target and get everything on you as much as possible. Your whirlwind will keep you alive, but you have to stay surrounded. You won't really have problems hitting most of these. So see, area piece, invis. And allow my Samp to take aggro on all of those. An annoying thing is those blood elementals are opposing to demon. Not gonna move. Wait for him to come back. And if you're lucky, you can do this all the way until he dies and then go attack the other one. Every now and then, just spin that mouse wheel and get aggro from everything. Those are the spawns that are new, that really kind of will take you by surprise if you haven't done Dark Fathers in a while. Let's see, he had retargeted my bard, but by clicking on him, I actually brought him back down. I think that's part of the Paragon AI. They kind of a way to manipulate their auto attack nature. Sometimes it don't work. Just have to invis. Keep him in stone form and he'll be fine. Yeah, he likes my bard. Well, it takes a little bit of practice to get in a position like this where you don't have to move at all, but trust me in that if you can stay in one area and not even get your pets to go into that center room, you'll have a much better time taking these out one at a time. Why do you like my bard so much? We've lucked out so far. That other Dark Father hasn't noticed us, so key is just to not go into that middle of the room when there's more than one. It's easy to get distracted by the spawn, but you always want to make sure that you're, doing damage to the Dark Father whenever he's nearby, because he has so many hit points, and I'm not doing as much damage as some people can do. Obviously, if you have 2 Dexers, this goes way faster or more. So when he gets down to about 12%, this is where he'll start to heal. It is annoying. He will heal up on his way back up. And if you're like me and you like to drop the luck suit towards the very end, I will say that I usually notice that he'll always drop one of his big spawns, his big mob spawns, like when he's at 0%. I mean, almost like clockwork. So keep that in mind. Make sure that your luck suit is functional. You want to be able to fight and do the same amount of damage that you're doing before, or at least stay alive. It's also, especially around this time, you want to make sure that you're, constantly clicking on him or targeting him so that you keep aggro. So he will move. Be patient. Remember, you're in the battle for the long haul, so even when he's down here towards his end, he still has a lot of hit points. Of course. See what I mean? He will drop those mobs at the end, so don't luck suit too quickly. In fact, I'm not going to for the purposes of this video, but I would expect a There it is. Every time. All right. One down. All right, so that's pretty much the tactic. It did take a little bit, but as you can see, it is doable with just one Samp and one Bard. More Dexers, the better. If you have Tamers, make sure that they stay up kind of there where the Bard is, and as soon as Darkfather pings back into the middle, have them, all follow me. You don't want your pets going past, into an area, or it's super easy to get the other Darkfather involved. All right, so I'm going to actually go and do the other one, so feel free to stop now, or you can watch this one as well. So thanks for watching. Get the honor in. Without that honor, I'm just doing crap for damage. Remember, kids, get the honor in before. I notice when my bard get targeted, I didn't freak out. He's not gonna do that much melee damage. Just make sure you're running protection. Make sure you cast Invis immediately. Only 60% on him. It'll take forever. But as long as you keep the pattern, you can pretty much do this all day. So notice what I'm doing. Since I didn't get the honor in, I actually get a damage buff from momentum strike on other against the second target. So if I have like a revenant or something, works really good if you get a rotting corpse. Could try lightning strike, see what that does on this guy. Yeah, so I think unhonored, if you're kind of like a secondary fighter and you don't have a nat or anything else, double demon slayer, your best bet is really probably just to use the onslaught. Try to debuff him for the whole group. Normally doesn't take quite this long because I would have been more careful and gotten the honor in, but I didn't want to give up, so we'll see it through. I expect at least one more mob drop. Come on. There you go. Alright, well, so was not the most efficient last run. Yeah, it's not a bad ring. So if you got decent luck, Darkfather will drop legendaries and some pretty decent items sometimes. You know, it's not great for items. I also pick up usually the scrolls that he offers because they're all high-end scrolls. Alright, so to sum, you know, as you can see, even under the worst circumstances, I didn't get an honor in that time. I'm not using a nat. I'm not doing very much damage, but I just kept my cool and kept the pattern up and made it through both Dark Fathers. All right, thanks a lot, guys.